Want to monitor and secure employees who work from home? With CurrentWare's remote workforce management software, you can improve employee productivity, data security, and business intelligence with advanced awareness and control over how technology is used in your organization. After completing this tutorial, you'll be able to remotely update your CurrentWare security policies and monitor the computer activities of your remote workers from the convenience of the CurrentWare Console. Today, I will cover two key ways to deploy CurrentWare for remote workers: using port forwarding to connect offsite devices to an on-premises CurrentWare server, and deploying the CurrentWare server to a self-managed cloud virtual machine. For more information, you can visit the self-serve knowledge base at currentware.com/support or get in touch with the CurrentWare support team at currentware.com/contact. Alright, let's get started. Before the tutorials, I'd like to go over how CurrentWare works. CurrentWare operates on a client-server model. The CurrentWare client is a software agent that collects computer activity data and enforces security policies on the device it is installed on. The CurrentWare server accepts and stores data from the CurrentWare clients and pushes out security policies to your managed devices. The CurrentWare Console is the centralized management portal where you'll manage your security policies and review the computer activity data of your remote workers. The CurrentWare Console and server will be installed on a computer, server, or cloud-based virtual machine. After you set up the CurrentWare Console and server, you'll install the CurrentWare client on each computer that you'd like to monitor and control. To monitor and manage these client computers when they're taken off-site, you'll need to connect the CurrentWare clients to the CurrentWare server through port forwarding or a VPN. Once the clients are installed on your users' computers and connected to the CurrentWare server, they will appear in the web console where you can run reports on their computer activities and apply your desired security policies. As a backup, each CurrentWare client has its own local database that stores user activity data and security policies. Should your remote employee go offline or disconnect from your network, their computer will still be monitored and restricted. Once they reconnect to the CurrentWare server, any security policy updates will be applied, and their user activity data will be automatically uploaded for viewing in the web console. With that in mind, let's go over the first method for monitoring remote employees with CurrentWare. This section will teach you how to monitor remote employees when you have the CurrentWare server installed on an on-site computer or server. To do this, you'll configure port forwarding rules that connect the CurrentWare clients to the CurrentWare server over a static public IP address. While we'll be focusing on port forwarding for this tutorial, a VPN may also be used to establish a connection between your remote worker's computer and your company's network. If available, consider using more secure technologies like Tailscale, Zero Tier, etc., which offer end-to-end encryption. To use a VPN in this way, you'll need to ensure that your network topology allows the CurrentWare client to connect to the CurrentWare server by IP address. If you opt to use a VPN to connect your user's computer to your network, your employee will not need to be constantly connected to the VPN to be monitored. When they disconnect from the VPN, all of their computer activity data and lasting security policies will be cached on their computer by the CurrentWare client agent. The next time they connect to the VPN, their activity data will be uploaded to the CurrentWare server, and their CurrentWare clients will receive any security policy updates. To begin, I'll show you how to install the CurrentWare Console and server. Later in this tutorial, we will install the CurrentWare clients on your remote employee's computer and use port forwarding rules to connect them to this server. For this part, you'll need the CurrentWare setup file. If you do not have this file, you can go to currentware.com/download and fill out the form. Once we open it up here, we'll follow the instructions in the installation wizard. Once the installation is complete, it is going to create the SQL database. Now, you're going to be prompted to create an account. This account is how you'll log into your CurrentWare console. Once you've created the username, click Add Operator. Then, continue following the installation wizard to finish the installation. Now that you've installed the CurrentWare server and console, it's time to configure inbound port forwarding rules on your router. These port forwarding rules will be used to send traffic from your remote employee's CurrentWare clients to the CurrentWare server. In order for port forwarding to work, you'll need to ensure that your CurrentWare server is on a network that has a static public IP address. This can be obtained from your internet service provider. Forward TCP and UDP ports 8988 to 8999 to the static public IP address of your CurrentWare server computer. For instructions on how to set up port forwarding for your specific router, please refer to the instructions from your manufacturer. Now that you've prepared the CurrentWare server, it's time to deploy the CurrentWare clients to your employees' computers. There are multiple ways to deploy the CurrentWare client. For this tutorial, I will show you the local client installation. This is the simplest installation to do, as it just requires you to run the cwclientsetup.exe file on the computers you'd like to monitor and manage with CurrentWare. For large-scale deployments, you can also use group policies or a dedicated third-party software deployment tool. To learn client installation methods that are suitable for large-scale deployments, please visit our knowledge base at currentware.com/support. Alright, let's get started. To install the CurrentWare client on your employee's computer, simply run the cwclientsetup.exe file. Here, you'll see that it asks for an IP address or computer name. For this setup, you'll put in the static public IP address of the CurrentWare server's network. Click Next, then click Install. And that's it. All that's left to do is restart the computer. If there are any issues connecting the CurrentWare clients to the CurrentWare server, please ensure that the public IP address of your CurrentWare server network is static. Verify that your firewall is not blocking the prerequisite TCP and UDP ports mentioned earlier, and whitelist CurrentWare in your antivirus. For more information, please visit the knowledge base at currentware.com/support. Now that the clients are installed and connected to the CurrentWare server, your employees' devices and user accounts will appear in the web console, where you can run reports on their computer activities and apply your desired security policies. To access the web console within the local area network of the CurrentWare server, simply open the web browser of your choice and enter your CurrentWare server static public IP address or hostname into the browser URL bar, followed by :8998. Then, type in the operator username and password you created during the installation. In a standard installation, the web console is only accessible to devices within your local area network. To access the web console remotely from an off-network device, you'll need to make one last change. On the machine with the CurrentWare server and console installed, browse to the following directory: C. Program Files x86, CurrentWare, CW Web Console, Web Console. In this folder, search for a file called app-config.json. Right-click on it and select Open With, then find Notepad. With the app-config.json file open in Notepad, you'll see a line of text with the pre-populated API URL. Replace the existing IP address or hostname you see here with the static public IP address of the machine that is hosting the CurrentWare server. Finally, save your changes. That's it. Now that your inbound port forwarding rules are in place and the app-config.json file is configured properly, you'll be able to remotely access your CurrentWare web console even when you're away from the local area network of the CurrentWare server. Next, I'll show you how to deploy CurrentWare to the cloud. This setup is similar to a standard on-premises deployment, except instead of using an on-site computer or server to host the CurrentWare server and console, you'll create a virtual machine on the cloud platform of your choice. To deploy CurrentWare to the cloud, you'll need to create a virtual machine on the cloud platform of your choice. Configure the virtual machine to accept CurrentWare traffic. Install the CurrentWare server on the virtual machine. Deploy the CurrentWare clients on the computers you'd like to monitor and control. And configure the CurrentWare clients to connect to the CurrentWare server using the static public IP address of the cloud-based virtual machine. Alright, let's get started. First, you need to create a virtual machine on the cloud platform of your choice. For this example, we will be using Azure, but you could also use another cloud service provider such as Google Cloud Platform or Amazon Web Services. To create a Windows virtual machine in Azure, follow these steps. Log in to your Microsoft Azure portal. In the search bar, type Virtual Machines. Under Services, select Virtual Machines. On the Virtual Machines page, click Create, then select Virtual Machine from the drop-down menu. Next, create a virtual machine with the following configurations. Under the Basics tab, enter your desired virtual machine name, Windows image, and instance size. For up-to-date system requirements for CurrentWare, go to currentware.com/support/system-requirements. Under the administrator account, provide a username and a password. Later on, you will use these credentials to log into the virtual machine. Under inbound port rules, choose Allow selected ports and then select RDP 3389 and HTTPS 443 from the dropdown. Then, confirm the licensing checkbox before moving on to the next tab. Under the Disk tab, Select your desired operating system disk type and encryption type. In this case, we use a standard HDD and the default encryption settings. Under the Networking tab, go to the Public IP section and click on Create New. This will create a public IP address for your virtual machine. When you are ready, click on the Review and Create button at the bottom of the page to create your virtual machine. Once your virtual machine is created, you'll find the static IP address under the Properties. Take note of the IP address. You'll need it for your CurrentWare client deployment. Now that you've created your virtual machine, we're going to connect to it via RDP so you can configure it to accept traffic from your CurrentWare server and clients. Here's how. Log into your Azure portal. Go into Virtual Machines. Click on the name of your virtual machine, and from the left menu under Settings, select Connect. Under the RDP tab, choose the appropriate IP address and port number. In most cases, the default IP address and port should be used. Select Download RDP file. Open the Download RDP file and select Connect when prompted. You'll get a warning that the RDP file is from an unknown publisher. This is expected and is not a cause for concern in this case. When prompted for your credentials, enter the username and password you created earlier. Then, select OK. If a certificate error comes up, you can select Yes to continue. Now that you've connected to the virtual machine, here are the changes you need to make to allow it to accept traffic between your CurrentWare server and clients. On your Azure portal, select your virtual machine. From the left menu under Networking, select Network Settings. Click on the button Create Port Rule, then Inbound Port Rule. From the Service menu, choose Custom. Enter the destination port range, 8988 to 89999. Set the priority to any number you prefer. Give it a name, and then click Add. With these settings, your virtual machine is all set to allow traffic to flow freely between the CurrentWare server and client. Next, I'll show you how to install the CurrentWare server and console on the virtual machine. After that, we'll deploy the CurrentWare clients to your employees' computers. For this part, you'll need the CurrentWare setup file. If you do not already have one, you can go to currentware.com/download and fill out the form to get it. To begin, run the currentware.exe setup file on the virtual machine and follow the instructions. The installer will proceed to install the CurrentWare server and console. Enter the SQL database login information. Now that you've prepared the CurrentWare server, it's time to deploy the CurrentWare clients to your employees' computers. There are 4 key methods used to deploy the CurrentWare client. A local installation where you manually run an exe or MSI file on the computers you'd like to manage, using the built-in remote client installation tool, a remote installation using the command line, and a remote installation using an Active Directory GPO with an MSI or batch file. In this tutorial, we'll cover the local installation option. For details on the other options, please visit our knowledge base at currentware.com/support. Alright, let's get started. To begin, launch cwclientsetup.exe on the client computer. The installer will ask you for the IP address or hostname where the CurrentWare server is installed. Put in the static public IP address of your virtual machine. Once the installation is finished, simply restart the computer. In a few moments, the computer will show up in the CurrentWare console. And that's it. Now that the clients are installed on your users' computers and connected to the CurrentWare server on your virtual machine, they'll appear in the web console where you can run reports on their computer activities and apply your desired security policies. To access the web console within the local area network of the CurrentWare server, simply open the web browser of your choice and enter your CurrentWare server static public IP address or hostname into the browser URL bar, followed by :8998. In a standard installation, the web console is only accessible to devices within your local area network. To access the web console remotely from an off-network device, you'll need to make one last change. On the virtual machine with the CurrentWare server and client installed, browse to the following directory: C, Program Files x86, CurrentWare, CW Web Console, Web Console. In this folder, search for a file called app-config.json. Right-click on it and select Open With, then find Notepad. With the app-config.json file open in Notepad, you'll see a line of text with a pre-populated API URL. Replace the existing IP address or hostname you see here with the static public IP address of the machine that is hosting the CurrentWare server. Finally, save your changes. That's it. Now that your inbound port forwarding rules are in place and the app-config.json file is configured properly, you'll be able to remotely access your CurrentWare web console even when you're away from the local area network of the CurrentWare server. To access your CurrentWare web console, simply enter your static public IP address followed by :8998 in the address bar of a web browser. That's it for today. If you have any questions, our support team is here to help. Simply reach out to us at currentware.com/contact or visit currentware.com/support to access our self-serve knowledge base. See you next time.